And just one thing about payas, I forgot to tell you. I was going to tell you last time when we learned about payas. The Rambam says that you have to leave a minimum of 40 hairs to be fulfilling the mitzvah of payas. Sounds like that you can cut some of the payas off as long as you leave behind 40 hairs. And other Rishonim hold that not only you have to leave all the payas there, but if you cut 2 hairs off, you're already chayiv for payas. There is an argument about payas, whether you have to use a razor, whether you use a scissor, but obviously we're machmir even a scissor. But some hold that even pulling 2 hairs. And based on that, there's a whole discussion whether you're allowed to use a comb, let's say, to comb your payas, because if 2 hairs is considered already, according not the Rambam, but according to others, is an avera, then when you comb, sometimes a couple of hairs fall out. Others say, it's totally unintentional, and therefore we're not going to be that machmir here. But interesting discussion. Now we're discussing if a person is allowed to remove the hair of their under armpits and their puberty. Let's start thinking more again if you don't mind. We'll go quickly through it. I'm 7, 8 lines at the bottom, 2 dots. Omar Rav said, now there's 2 ways of learning this whole Gemara. There's 2 ways. We'll just learn one way, but I'll just mention the other way as well. Omar Rav says, Mekel Adam Kol Gufa B'tar. You're allowed to remove the hair, lighten your body, sort of. You're allowed to remove the hair from your entire body. We're not talking about your beard or your head. We're talking about the rest of your body using a razor, including under your armpits and including where you have puberty. Meisrael, I'll ask you a question. Hamavir base hashech base erev. Somebody removes underarm hair or removes the pubic hairs. Hareza loika. It says you get malchus, and you said that you're allowed to with a razor. So one answers a razor is forbidden, but with a scissor, you're allowed to cut your hair wherever. You're not allowed to use a razor. In other words, a razor. Rav said, when Rav said you're allowed to remove all your hair, including your pubic hair, is talking about the scissor, and you make it very close to your body. But a razor, it is forbidden. Now, yeah, but we're talking about here, the way our version of the Gemara is, we're only talking about those 2 areas, under the armpits and the pubic hair, because that was, women used to remove them. And because they do a Brazilian wax, so they removed all the hair under the armpit. So therefore, it's like comes under the banner of you shouldn't dress like a woman. But the rest of your body, to remove your hair, it's not even a discussion. You're allowed to. That's this version of the Gemara. The Bahag has another whole version of the Gemara where instead of saying this is the difference between a razor and a scissor, this is the difference between the rest of your body or Beis HaShechi. The rest of your body, you're allowed to, and only under your armpit you're not allowed to. And Rabbi Yechon argues even that. That means even the rest of your body, you shouldn't use a razor to remove all your hair. He says in the name, if you remove those hairs under the armpits and pubic hairs, you get malchus. Sounds like it's an issa in the Torah. In other words, arguing with Rab. Meishal has a question that says in another brayse, removing the hair is only with Rabbanon. You tell me it's Mahatayr, it's only Rabbanon. In fact, we could have asked a contradiction of 2 brises. So we answered, Nami, my like and I'm going Rabbanon. It means only Rabbanon. Now, is Rabbi Yechon arguing with Rab, or is he, Marcus Mardis, is Rabbi Yechon arguing with Rab or not? So there's 2 ways of understanding Pshat. Many Rishonim hold that Rab and Rabbi Yechon are basically not saying the same thing. That you're not allowed to use a razor, but Rabbi Yechon also is talking about a razor. But with a scissor, like Rav, everyone holds you allowed to. Yeah, as long as it's not a razor. Taisa, however, insists that no, Rabbi Yechon argued with the Rav. He holds that even a scissor is forbidden if it's ke'ein tar. No, as Rav said that a scissor you're allowed to. And Rabbi Yechon says even a scissor you're allowed to because you're trying to mimic women and that's forbidden. Says the Gemara further, those who say there's another version, and this version Rabbi Yechon clearly explains the basis for the isser of removing those hairs. In the first version, just said don't do it, and then we said it's only midrabban. Now we're going to say that it's based on a pasuk, and in fact Rabbi Yechon holds it's mahatayra for a man to remove those hairs. Somebody remove those hairs, like you'll get lashes. Mishum, and on what basis? Predicated on the pasuk like Yilbash Geva Simas Isha. A man is not allowed to wear a woman's clothes, which means it's mahatayra. In this version, Rabbi Yechon is saying it seems that it's Mahatayra, that it's forbidden Mahatayra. Meisel asks a question, says clearly in the Braisa, Havora Sir Eina Medivra Torah Ela Medivra Seifrim. Removing those hairs is only Midrabanan. And the way we're learning the Gemara right now, we're only honing in on those hairs from which women used to do, which is under the armpits and pubic hairs. So we answered, no, you're right. But there's another he follows another opinion that clearly holds that Mahatayra is forbidden for a man to imitate a woman and vice versa. And it's therefore it's Mahatayra for a man to do that. The time we learned if somebody removed those hairs, committed the sin of a man should not wear the clothes of a woman. So clearly there's an abraisa that says Mahatayra and that's Rabbi Yechon. So this version of Rabbi Yechon holds it's Mahatayra to remove those hairs. So anyone with Tana Kama, the Tana of the other Braisa that says clearly it's only Midrabanan. So what do they do with the pasuk Yilbash? What's the Torah referring to when it says a man shouldn't wear women's clothes? Tana Kama, Hai Lo Yilbash Geva My Dodish Bay. What do they do with the pasuk Yilbash? The boy, and then you look at Tanya like we learned. That it says in the pasuk that the kli gever, interesting expression. It doesn't say the clothes of the kli. That means anything that a man wears that's a man thing. That's Gemara will say exactly. Exactly. A woman should not wear a man's clothes. What you're trying to say? And a man should not wear a woman's clothes. Now, what's the Torah trying to forbid here? Take it literally. Each seamless isha, a man should wear a woman's clothes, woman should wear a man's clothes. It doesn't say already to Eva. It says already at the end of the pasuk says it's an abomination. If all it is a man wearing a woman's clothes, where's the abomination? Why is it abomination? The ain't count to Eva is usually when something immoral. What's so immoral over here? Ella, you know what the pasuk means? Not just take it literally. Shala yilbash is seamless issue with a purpose. The yeshe bein hanoshim. When does it become an abomination? If you're doing it to resemble a woman and exactly, and to mingle with women, or the isha seamless isha teisha bein hanoshim, a woman to mingle amongst men. So that's this authority here. So this opinion says that when is the Easter only if you're reading, the reason why you're wearing a man's outfit or a man wearing a woman's outfit is in order to lead to an abomination, then it's forbidden. But if it's not to lead to abomination, then it's permitted. That's what this Braisa here seems to be saying. And Rabbi Yechanan learns from the Braisa that it means that if a man wants to imitate a woman and so on, it's forbidden. Rabbi Lezman Yaakov says, Rabbi Yaakov says, I know a woman shouldn't wear, you shouldn't go to the army. Tamalemo shouldn't have to go, that's someone shouldn't go to the army. You shouldn't wear uniform, the men's uniform, and to have what do you call it? Guns and all that, weapons. That it shouldn't be the kli gever, shouldn't be on a woman. But la yilbash gever, and what does it mean? La yilbash gever simas isha. Okay, so a woman means she shouldn't have. They shouldn't have weapons. What does it mean? A man, we'll come back to that soon. A man shouldn't wear the clothes of a woman. A man should not put on makeup and everything else like a woman does. So it seems right now we're learning everything takes literally that that a man's not allowed to do things that a woman does, a woman's not allowed to do things a man does, and so on. We'll come back to all this in a minute. Amram Nachman.
He says, "A man, talk English like
I said, yeah. Big. Anything to do with
Let's say that they can only wear black. Rashi says the women wear colorful clothes.
Exactly. Very good. In fact, the only thing we learned in our brachas that you test there is that a woman shouldn't wear, according to one view, the red clothes, but all other colors, exactly, all because that attracts attention. Amram Nachman. Nachman says, okay. Nachman says, what do you call it? Nachman says, look, a Nazir, since he's anyway removing his hair on his head, so therefore it already looks ugly anyway, then for him, if he removes the hair under his armpit, you can't say he's doing it to look pretty, look nice, because anyway he's looking ugly. So then it's not a problem. This is an absolute law. You're not allowed to remove the hair on the armpits or your pubic hair, and therefore it makes no difference if you're a Nazir at the time. Rabbanan once said to Rabbi Yechon, we once saw Rabbi Yechon, the Leslie, he had no hair under his armpits. Oh, what's going on here? That's interesting, because the Gemara about Mitzi, we had Rabbi Yechon had a problem. He had no beard either. So he had a long eyebrow. But he had no beard. You remember, he must have had a beard, he would be far more handsome. Because the reason why the Shlukish became very attracted to, because you know how handsome Rabbi Yechon is. Rabbi Yechon said that if you get into the learning, my sister, maybe I can talk to shidduch with my sister. And so the Gemara said, but if it had been, it would be more attractive. So the Gemara could have just said right now, he just didn't have hair growing there. The Gemara instead says, when you get older, you're less hairy, and they had less hair coming out of his armpits. There's a person who did something wrong that the rabbis, it's not against the Torah, but something the rabbi said we should do, and they felt that he was so hefkeres. This person, was trying to defy the authority of the rabbis. So they decided they're going to give him lashes, 39 lashes. So when he was taking off whatever his top coat or something, he lifted his arm. They saw that he left his hair growing. No malchus. He's one of us, because he knows that you shouldn't touch with. It seemed that it was very commonplace for them to remove the hair under the armpits. He's one of us. Boy, Rav has a question. He asked the question: can one remove the hair from under the armpits of pubic hair? According to our version, the other version is the rest of the body. Can you shave it off? Also, it's forbidden. It's forbidden. His question was not if he can use a scissor, because if his question was a sister and his uncle Reb Chia told him it's forbidden, how in the world did we learn before Rav said you're permitted? But he would go against his uncle. So what asking the question in the first place for? And then argue with him. So obviously he's talking about a razor, and he told me not allowed to. But a scissor you're allowed to. But according to the Baal Halachas Gedolos, a scissor is also forbidden. It's only the rest of the body where a scissor is permitted. According to the Baal Halachas Gedolos, the Bahag, the rest of the body using razor like this, to use a razor to not to wax your legs, but to remove all the hair from your legs is forbidden. It's what do you call it? But what do you call it? A scissor is what you want to know whether it's permitted or not. And he said yes. And Abchia said, no, the rest of the body is forbidden with a scissor. Sorry, the base of Shechem else is forbidden with a scissor. But the problem is it's growing, and when it grows very long, it's very painful, it's very uncomfortable. Maybe you sweat, perspire a lot, is uncomfortable. On Malay, he said to him, Bar Pichsi, son of a great rabbi, there's a time here it eventually falls out. If it gets too long, it falls out by its own. Okay, we learn from here a very important thing, as Tesa points out, and these are the sort of the rules. When we say that you're not allowed to, a man's not allowed to wear a woman's clothing, woman's not allowed to wear a man's clothing, is if you do it for beauty, if you're doing it for vanity purposes. But if you're doing it, for example, it's painful. Rav said to his uncle, but it's painful. The reason why he's cutting his hair is not because he wants to imitate, women. It's because he wants to. It's uncomfortable. Then the Gemara says you're allowed to. The only thing Rabbi says you don't have to bother because anyway it's going to fall out. So don't worry about it. So a very important rule. If you do so, for example, as the Bach rules, if a woman wants to wear a man's clothing because it's warmer, or a man wants to wear a woman's clothing because it's warmer, not because he wants to be like women, but because it's cold out there and these clothes are warmer, or other way around. In the summer, with maybe slider or something, then the Bach says you're allowed to. So in Halacha Shulchan Aruch, we say as follows: where you look, this is very important. If you completely dress one way or another, like a man dresses exactly like a woman dresses exactly like a man, it's forbidden. Because it says Layobash, take it literally. If you're wearing some clothes like a man and some like a woman, or you can tell right away this is a man, and you can tell right away this is a woman, but you're wearing some clothes like a man and some clothes like a woman, then it depends. What the purpose is. Is the purpose because you want to be feminine, you want to be masculine, then it's forbidden. But if your purpose is because it's very cold out there, and therefore the reason you're wearing that because you want to protect yourself from the cold, or you're going for a hike and you don't want to get cut up by the thorns or something, so you wear, let's say slacks, whatever it is. The problem with women wearing slacks actually is not so much in Lesubush, because it's more to do with sneeze, especially if it's tight, and that's the problem with slacks, because it's molded in the physique of the body. But if it's not, if it's very baggy, then the question comes like silbish. But if the reason you're wearing it, let's say it's winter, it's very cold, and you're doing it for that, it shouldn't be a problem. We discussed yesterday, if you're wearing slacks under your skirt, well, definitely you can tell it's a woman, and so on. So depends why you're doing it. If you're doing it because you're going skiing, whatever it is, and you want to protect yourself. Oh, one more thing, sorry. The very important thing that Ramon just have a little bit of an argument, and that is, what happens in this particular society? Everyone wears these things. Men, women, is no difference. What happens then? Then the Beis says, if you did it, it's all right. In other words, it sounds like chatchila, you still shouldn't do it. The Ramah says, I feel lechatchila, if it's not a man thing or a woman thing, if everybody, doesn't matter what 100 years ago or in a different country, that's how it is. But if you're in Ireland, then everybody will say, Scotland, yeah, but exactly. So if that's a society thing, the Ramah says, lechatchila, you can. But then he says, even a society thing, I think the Lashon is, Tamid al-Chamim should sort of stay away from it. Okay, let's go further. And this is the rule by a mirror. By a mirror, we say that a man should look in a mirror because vanity, but if he's doing it, but if you live in a society, if you're living in a society, if you're living in a society where everybody looks in the mirror, then there's no problem, no silbish anymore. Big discussion if a man is allowed to put on a woman's clothing. It seems in the times of Rebbe Leon Mizrahi, talking about a long time ago, 800 years ago, it seems that by chasnas, the batchen, whoever the jester, used to come dressed up like a woman, or a woman dressed up totally like a man, completely. You couldn't even tell. And there's a whole discussion. He says you're doing it just for short term. You're just doing it for fun. Are you allowed to? Not allowed to. And some people say you're allowed to, and the Rebbe Leon Mizrahi comes very strongly against it. But by Purim, the Ramah in Shulchan Aruch actually says you're allowed to, and the Bach comes out very strongly against it. The Ramah says if I'm Purim, you want to dress up like a woman or a woman like a man. We're talking about not just putting on one item like a woman, but to actually look like a woman or like a man. It seemed that it was very commonplace in times of Ramah, and Ramah says you're allowed to because you're doing it for Simchas Purim. You're allowed to. The Bach comes out very strongly against it. If you look exactly, not talking about if you put on one thing, like a man or like a woman. Talking about if you look exactly like a man or a woman, and it's difficult to identify you, then it's forbidden. Interesting, if you have a beard and you dress like a man or a woman, what happens then? But it goes further. Therefore, a man is not allowed to pluck out even one white hair from his black beard to look younger, because that falls under the banner of the silbish. So you're not allowed to dye your hair. But if you want to dye your hair, if you have a black beard and you want to dye your hair white, it seems that some people want to look more distinguished, then you're allowed to. Because it's not vain at all. If anything, you're doing it to look more distinguished, then you're more eminent, then you're allowed to. Okay, let's continue. Then are you allowed to go ahead and to rub? Are you allowed to go ahead and rub your the hair under your armpits, the clothing, and that's how you're pulling the hair out? Sorry, with your hand. Yeah, also forbidden. Even though you're not using a scissor or anything else, forbidden. What about the big day with his clothing? Mouth? No, you keep on rubbing with your clothes and eventually hair falls out. That is permitted because it's indirect. It's not. No woman does it that way, and therefore it's not awesome. It's not awesome. So there's a big argument here. They want to say that you're not allowed to use your hand even just to rub it. That means that a scissor is forbidden as well. And others say that no proof from here at all. The fact that you're allowed to use a shirt, therefore you're allowed to use other methods to remove the hair as well. And the Ashba argues in discussion. Others say, the question was by tefillah, by davening. You're not allowed to touch certain hair. You're not allowed to scratch your head. You're not allowed to touch hairs which are generally concealed during davening. What about the big day? Can you scratch those hairs using your beggar, not touching directly? Also forbidden. But let's like it, so you're definitely permitted. Okay, next Mishnah. So what we learned in the first Mishnah in this paragraph was about two people. One was a Nazir, one was a what do you call it? Two Nazir. One of them became a person said, one of you guys are tummy, we don't know. So what we did was we said that they both have Nazirs for 30 days, and we bring two sets of karbanos, one as if you're tummy, one as if you're tar, and we make a condition, whoever it is a tummy is a tummy, whoever is a tar is a tar. And then we both have another 30 days of Naziris, and again we bring together in partnership one set of kabbanas, and each one says if it's me, it's me, if it's you, it's you. And then we discussed about the haircuts, and we said the only way you can have a second haircut is because if you're not a Nazir, you don't think that's the crew cut. So either the Mishnah holds that hakafa's color hakafa is not a problem if you cut the entire hair off, or talking about a woman or a child. Says this Mishnah, what happens when one of these two people died? And we don't know which one it is, a Talmudic person, a targeted person. What do you do? One of them died. You said, this is what you have to do. You have to have these options. Find a good friend in the marketplace. Do me a big favor. Come a Nazir to help me out. And start straight away. He says, and this is what he said, okay. And this friend is not only going to help you out for 30 days, you have to do two multiples of Nazirs, because your friend will step into place of this other guy. He must be a very good friend. Omer says, he believed it's possible to find such friends. Omer said, if I was one of Tameh, you'll be another straight away, and therefore you will be you're the Torah, and I'm the Tameh, and good on us. And the Tameh, what do you bring as a Tameh? You bring a bird, you bring a chatus, you bring an oila, and you bring what do you call it? An asham. The asham you cannot bring. The oila we can make it a donation or a carbon, so you can make that condition. But the chatas oif by a bird is the only bird that a chatas you can actually bring a chatas oif on the suffix, just nobody can eat from it.
The tumah you can bring it.
Yeah, you only bring a bird. But when a full for a full naziris, you bring actually a chatas, but a full behema. And by behema you can't bring it on a suffix. You have to know for sure if you're tired. So this is what he says. He says, if I was tired, if I was tired, then your naziris is not the first 30 days, and you'll be the nazir the next 30 days. No, if I'm tamei, then you're a nazir now. If I'm tired, then I don't need you. I don't want you to be nazir right now because we're going to have to then we'll bring another karbanis at the end of 60 days. So I want you then to be nazir the next 30 days. So in other words, you're going to be nazir twice. One of them is going to be a real naziris. One of them is going to be a fake naziris. The sefer in shleishim again have the same problem. How does the other guy take a haircut? And we'll go through the same thing. Either we hold that it's not a problem, or we hold to a woman or a child. The sefer in shleishim, you count 30 days. They bring two karbanis, karban tumah and karban tara. Now they bring a karban tumah, which is the chatas oif. Big machlek is Rashi and Taisus here, where they also bring the oilus oif. And now Taisus says you have to bring the oilus oif. The mission doesn't mention it because it's obvious. You just bring it and you say it's either donation or it's my real carbon. But Rashi says you don't bring an oilus oif. It's not necessary because you anyway. We learned before if you only bring one carbon, but the evidence, it's all right. You can go ahead and and move on. So you bring a carbon tumah and a carbon tara. You also bring the carbon tara, the full set. Vayimi says as follows: if I'm the one who's tameh, then carbon tumah is my carbon, the carbon tara is lach. You the one brings the carbon tara. If I'm the tara, carbon tara is mine, the carbon tumah is suffix, and the carbon tumah is a suffix. The seifrim shleishia we count 30 days, we count another 30 days, and now we only bring a carbon tara. And I say as follows: if I was one who was tameh, then carbon tumah, the previous carbon tumah was mine, the carbon tara shalach, and the carbon tara we brought a month ago was yours. What about this carbon tara? It's only mine. I'm the only one who's really a nazir right now because you don't have to be a nazir. That carbon tara, this is my carbon tara. Because your second set naziris was not part of nazir, you never took it on because you made a condition. I'm only made nazir for one naziris, but you don't know which naziris is yours, so you're going to conduct yourself as if you're nazir two period. Yeah. If I'm the one who was tired before, then carbon tara shleim, carbon tumah just a suffix, and the chatas oif you're allowed to bring in a suffix. The oilus oif, according to Taisus, was a donation. According to Rashi, you don't bring it. The zerben carbon tara and this carbon now is yours. Amalib ben said, you know something? Me shameya loy shiyoder keneged nazir. You find me another person who voluntarily will become a nazir, not just for 30 days, but for 60 days. So do you a favor. I don't have such friends. Ella, so what do? Maybe you're on your own. There's nobody can help you out. This is what you do. Maybe after the first 30 days, you bring, it could be your tummy, it could be your tummy. So you bring a chatas oif, because a chatas oif you could bring on a suffix, and you bring an oil of a behemoth. And you say as follows: If I was tamei hachatas mechavasi, then this chatas is my chatas, and what about this behemoth is a donation. The oil of the doven. V'im tarda, you see, if I really was tired, then her oil mechavasi, this oil is my carbon, and the chatas mesafik, and the chatas is a suffix which you're allowed to bring, and we know that you're allowed to take a haircut and everything else after one behemoth already. The sefer shleishim, you count another 30 days, or make the carbon tari. Then you bring the full set to her. He says as follows: if I was tummy before, if I was tummy before, then the first oil was my chayiv, and the first oil that I brought then was an animal. That was a voluntary thing because you don't bring one when you're tummy, and this is my chayiv. And you see, and if I was tired, if I was tired, then the first one is Bezuf Dava, and the rest of the Kabbalah is Bezuf Shar Kabani. That means there's a month apart. If I was tired, then last month I brought my oil, and a month later I brought the rest of my Kabbalas. I'm going to be sure. Nimtzah that Navy Kabbalah you split in half. I will hurt you. Is right. What's so bad if you what's wrong? Where does it say you have to bring everything in one the same day? Where does it say that? You couldn't spend your time. In fact, the Gemara says Velaisi, and that's going to be sure. What's wrong with bringing it a month later? Very interesting. Rabbi Yeshua never believed a minute in what he said. He wanted to tease out of his students that they should say exactly what Ben Zayma said. Exactly what Ben Zayma said, he wanted to get out of it. And the Gemara said, Nachman said, my lab and Beshua, Ladakid, Lesser. In fact, Beshua's opinion is hard to understand. Why? When you take only one hair, this is what you do. You bring a carbon shlamim, then you take a haircut, and then you take the hair and you put it under you're going to cook the shlamim, and you take the fats of the shlamim. So when you take the fats of shlamim, put it in the bech, after your haircut. But you, Rabbi Shua, want them both to take a haircut before you do that. And if you want two people there. And if you can take the two haircuts, it takes a lot longer. By then, it will be smelly if it's a hot day in that throw, and the fats are sitting there, especially the fats sitting around your stomach are sitting there, it's going to go off, and it's going to smell. It will be a stench. It's putrid. So what do you do? Now, it's one thing if both of them are alive, you have no choice. But if you want a friend of the guy to come in, so Rabbi Shua's opinion doesn't even make sense. But the whole thing was to tease out of coming in. Now, the next Mishnah we already learned twice already, so we'll just quickly go through it. Nazir shayed tamei b'safik. Suddenly he became tamei. It's doubtful whether he became tamei. Umucha b'safik, and maybe he became a metzora. And therefore, if it's a metzora, he has to go through two shavings as a metzora, and maybe another time is a third shaving, then another third. So what do? We learned last time. As a metzora, you cannot participate in kachim till 3 days. The shaitzi yain, he drinks wine. So he drinks wine and metalamesim after 120 days. If you remember what we said was that he cannot take a haircut straight away. Maybe he's tummy because maybe he's a metzora. But metzora can take a haircut straight away, but maybe he's not a metzora. Maybe he's not tummy. He's just a regular nazir. You got to wait 30 days. You wait the first 30 days and take a haircut, but then maybe he's a metzora. So then you have to wait, and so then you have to take another haircut. But maybe he wasn't a metzora, so you have to wait another 30 days. And then once you get rid of the metzora part, now maybe he's tummy. So, but on the other hand, maybe he's not tummy at all. You got to wait another 30 days. And after the third month, 30 days, but maybe he was tummy. Got to do another 30 days of nazir. Because the tzaras definitely allows you to take a haircut. When can you take a haircut? Only if you know what you know. Day number 7, you're a metzora. 7 days later, we take a haircut, even though you're middle of the zeros. But since we don't know if you're metzora or not, you can't just take a haircut. You got to wait the full 30 days because maybe you are a nazir. We'll continue tomorrow at 10 past 7.